The Salem witch trials stand as a dark and chilling chapter in American history. They represent a period of profound fear and inexplicable hysteria. This tragic episode continues to fascinate and horrify generations. Yet the trials were fueled by far more than just religious fervor and superstitious dread. Beneath the surface of spectral accusations lay deeper, more insidious forces at play. These forces were rooted in the very fabric of the community. Deep-seated social and economic tensions were significant, often overlooked factors. They provided fertile ground for suspicion and animosity to flourish. These underlying conflicts shaped the trajectory of the accusations. At the very heart of these tensions lay a bitter and enduring feud. This rivalry simmered for years, poisoning relationships and dividing the community. It was a conflict that would ultimately contribute to the unfolding tragedy. This feud involved two of Salem Village's most prominent and influential families. On one side stood the Putnams, a family with deep roots and strong ambitions. Opposing them were the Porters, equally powerful and fiercely independent. The rivalry between the Putnams and the Porters was deeply rooted in the history of Salem Village. It was not a sudden eruption, but a long-standing antagonism. Generations had inherited this animosity. The primary cause of this bitter contention was land disputes. As the village grew, competition for valuable agricultural land intensified. Boundaries were often ill-defined, leading to constant friction. These land claims were not merely about property. They represented wealth and future prosperity. Control over land meant economic power and social standing. It was a zero-sum game. A secondary, yet equally potent cause was the struggle for power within the community. Salem Village lacked a formal, independent government. This created a vacuum for informal influence. Control over the church, the militia, and local offices became paramount. Each family sought to dominate these institutions. Their rivalry extended into every aspect of public life. This intense rivalry played a significant, though often subtle, role in shaping the accusations. It provided a pre-existing framework of distrust and animosity. This framework could be easily exploited. It also influenced the specific targets of the witch hunt. Accusations did not fall randomly. They often followed the fault lines of this long-standing community division. The Putnams were a family known for their relentless ambition. They sought to expand their holdings and influence at every opportunity. Their drive was a defining characteristic. They were also known for their considerable influence within Salem Village. Their lineage was old, their land extensive, and their connections strong. They held sway over many villages. The Putnams were actively involved in acquiring land, often through aggressive means. They sought to consolidate fragmented parcels. This often brought them into conflict with neighbors. They were equally engaged in consolidating their power within the village's informal structures. They aimed to control key positions and decision-making processes. Their goal was dominance. Thomas Putnam, in particular, emerged as a driving force behind the witch trials. He was a prominent figure among the accusers. His actions were deliberate and impactful. Thomas Putnam had a clear and vested interest in acquiring more land. His family's fortunes were tied to agricultural expansion. The trials offered a potential pathway to this goal. He also aimed to expand his family's influence and diminish that of their rivals. The trials presented an opportunity to weaken opposing factions. This was a strategic maneuver. The Porters represented a powerful and equally entrenched competing faction. They were a family of merchants and landowners. Their wealth often came from trade, not just farming. They clashed repeatedly with the Putnams over resources. Land, timber, and access to waterways were constant points of contention. These disputes were often litigated. Their conflicts also extended to control over the village's social and political life. Each family vied for leadership roles. They sought to shape the community's future. The Porters often represented a more commercially oriented, outward-looking perspective. This contrasted with the Putnams' more traditional agrarian focus. These differing visions fueled their animosity. The intense rivalry between the Putnams and the Porters created a pervasive climate of suspicion. Neighbors were often forced to choose sides. Trust eroded within the community. It also fostered deep-seated animosity that permeated daily life. Small grievances could quickly escalate. The village was a powder keg of resentment. This pre-existing climate of distrust made it easier for accusations to take root. People were already predisposed to believe ill of their opponents. The ground was prepared for hysteria. It also allowed accusations to spread with alarming speed and credibility. Once an accusation was made, it resonated within the existing divisions. It found fertile ground for growth. The feud provided a ready-made framework for interpreting events. Accusations could be seen not just as spiritual battles, but as extensions of earthly conflicts. This gave them a tangible dimension. It lent a veneer of legitimacy to otherwise baseless claims. If someone was already disliked due to their association with the opposing faction, an accusation seemed more plausible. This was a dangerous dynamic. The long-standing grievances could be weaponized. Old scores could be settled under the guise of rooting out witchcraft. The trials became a tool for social warfare. A crucial aspect of the trials was the alignment of those accused of witchcraft. The pattern of accusations was not random. It revealed a distinct bias. A disproportionate number of the accused were associated with the Porter side of the feud. These individuals were often their relatives, allies, or business associates. This was a striking correlation. This suggests that the accusations were not simply random acts of mass hysteria. While fear was rampant, there was an underlying logic. A method existed within the madness. Accusations were, in many cases, strategically directed. They targeted individuals who were either directly or indirectly connected to the Putnams' rivals. This was a calculated approach. Targets included prominent members of the Porter faction, their family members, and their supporters. Even those who merely expressed skepticism about the trials could become targets. This broadened the scope. By accusing and condemning these individuals, the Putnams could potentially weaken their opponents. It removed influential figures from the community. It also seized their property. This strategy furthered the Putnams' own interests in multiple ways. It consolidated their power, eliminated rivals, and potentially gained them economic advantage. The trials served a dual purpose. The accusations became a means of social control and political maneuvering. They were not solely about spiritual purity. They were also about earthly power and dominance. Putnam Jr. was a key figure in the accusations that swept through Salem village. Her testimony was central to many convictions. She was a powerful voice among the afflicted. She was the daughter of Thomas Putnam, a leading figure in the anti-Porter faction. Her family background placed her squarely within the heart of the feud. This context is vital. Putnam Jr. was one of the most active and prolific accusers. She claimed to be tormented by numerous spectral figures. Her dramatic fits fueled the hysteria. Her role is particularly significant because of her age and perceived innocence. A young girl's suffering lent credibility to the accusations. It made them harder to dismiss. Her accusations were likely influenced by her family's agenda and the prevailing tensions. She grew up immersed in the Putnam-Porter rivalry. This shaped her worldview. Her accusations helped to fuel the hysteria by providing vivid and compelling testimony. Her detailed descriptions of torment convinced many. They believed her suffering was real. Crucially, she helped to target individuals connected to the Porters and their allies. Her accusations often aligned with the Putnams' strategic interests. This pattern is undeniable. Putnam Jr. later publicly apologized for her role in the trials. She acknowledged that she had been deluded. This post-trial reflection offers a poignant insight into the tragedy. The Putnams versus the Porters feud provides a crucial and often overlooked lens. It helps us to understand the complex dynamics of the Salem witch trials. It reveals layers beyond simple religious fanaticism. The trials were not simply a product of religious fanaticism or mass delusion. While these elements were present, they were amplified by deeper societal issues. The context was critical. They were also a profound manifestation of social struggles within the community. Long-standing grievances and power imbalances found an outlet. The trials became a battleground. Furthermore, they were a clear manifestation of economic struggles. Land, wealth, and resources were at the heart of many disputes. These material concerns drove much of the conflict. These struggles plagued the community of Salem Village for decades. They created a volatile environment. The witch trials were the tragic culmination of these tensions. The Putnams, driven by their ambitions, exploited the climate of fear and suspicion. They leveraged existing animosities. They used the trials to their advantage. They did so to further their own interests, both economic and social. The accusations served as a weapon in their ongoing feud. This was a calculated exploitation. This exploitation ultimately contributed to the tragic events in Salem. It transformed a period of religious fervor into a tool for personal vendetta. The consequences were devastating. Understanding the Putnam-Porter feud is essential. It allows for a more nuanced and complete interpretation of the Salem witch trials. It reveals the human motivations behind the horror. It reminds us that historical events are rarely simple. They are often the product of complex interactions. Social, economic, and political forces intertwine with belief. The Salem witch trials stand as a stark warning. They illustrate the dangers of unchecked power. They show the perils of allowing personal grievances to fester. They also highlight the devastating consequences when fear is weaponized. The story of the Putnams and Porters is a testament to this enduring lesson. It is a cautionary tale for all time.